And we'd like to especially acknowledge and thank some NFRW officers who are joining us today. So first, we have NFRW First VP, Vanessa LaFranco. How are you doing today, Vanessa? Let me get you unmuted. There we go.
Wonderfully. How about yourself?
Doing great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. As always, this is a wonderful coalition with fabulous speakers, and you've really taken this and built it up into something wonderful for all of our members. So thank you, and thank you all of the participating virtual clubs. It's much appreciated, and it's a great project.
Thank you so very much, Vanessa. We always appreciate you joining us. We also want to give a few shout outs to some special guests joining us today. We have Attorney General Paul Summers, who's chair of the Keep 9 Coalition, Attorney General Steve Rosenthal, who's co-chair of the Keep 9 Coalition, Roman Buehler, Executive Director of the Keep 9 Coalition, as well as Martha Jenkins and Teresa Speak, NFRW members who are actively involved in the fight to Keep 9 and who went the extra mile to spread the word about today's call. So Lacey, if you wouldn't mind leading the introduction now.
Again, thank you to Dusty and all of our special guests for being with us tonight. A little bit about Dusty. Dusty Johnson brings an energetic and optimistic style to Washington as South Dakota's lone voice in the U.S. House of Representatives. A recognized leader in issues related to rural America, agriculture, and welfare reform, he serves on the Agriculture Committee and as chairman of the Commodity Markets, Digital Assets, and Rural Development Subcommittee. As a member of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, Dusty has been focused on finding solutions to the supply chain crisis through his Ocean Shipping Reform Act, which passed the House in 2021. Appointed to the Select Committee on China, Dusty addresses the 360-degree threat posed by China, especially their ownership of American ag land and ag businesses and control over tech. Prior to being elected to Congress, he served as a chief of staff to the governor and as vice president of an engineering firm specializing in rural telecommunications. Dusty lives in Mitchell with his wife and 3 sons. And ladies and gentlemen, with a name like Dusty, he's clearly not afraid to get his hands dirty for us in Washington. So let's give it up for the Honorable Dusty Johnson.
Well, thank you, everybody. And what a colorful close to that introduction. My friend Lacey, thank you. I also see friends Teresa on the call, and of course, Catherine. And then we've got Haley Halverson, who's running my reelection campaign. It looks like she's almost as though she's in a model shoot with that wind sweeping back her hair in the beautiful South Dakota spring day out in what I assume is Sioux Falls. But thanks, everybody. I will maybe just set the stage for 1 or 2 minutes, Lacey, and then we can open it up to any questions that you or Catherine or anybody else would have, if that's okay. Sure. Well, I do have to tell you that it is an exciting, all too often, I think conservatives that we have gotten disenchanted, we have gotten downhearted. We understand that America does not look exactly like we want it to. But ladies and gentlemen, now is a time for some celebration. Imagine how much worse things would be if Nancy Pelosi was still in charge of the U.S. House of Representatives. When the American people spoke in November, they knew what they were doing. They were placing a check on Joe Biden's power. You are not going to see Green New Deal provisions pass. You won't see another Inflation Reduction Act. You won't see an omnibus. You won't see a Build Back Better. The era of those things is over as long as the American people continue to put at least 218 Republicans in the U.S. House. And it is my honor to be one of those 218, holding the line and making sure not only can we be a check on the most egregious excesses of the Joe Biden era, but that we can also advance a conservative vision to make sure that Americans understand that there is a clear difference between the vision of the left and the vision of the right. And indeed, even as we have dealt with this debt ceiling crisis, which hopefully we can talk about more, I think you have seen that in an almost unified and unanimous voice, House Republicans have stepped forward and told Americans what we should do as a part of these negotiations to raise the debt ceiling. But what I want to talk to you about just for 1 more minute is Keep the 9. It's incredibly important. We have seen that Washington, D.C., my friends, can weaponize almost everything. But the courts are one bastion of relative independence from the political maelstroms that rage around us. And we know that there are liberal voices who want to increase dramatically the size of the court, not over time, but overnight. Jerry Nadler, the immediate past chairman of the Judiciary Committee, a name that many of you got to know during the Trump impeachments. He has proposed a bill along with AOC and others that would overnight add 4 more justices to the Supreme Court. They are aghast, they are appalled, they are angry that we have a Supreme Court that rules on what the Constitution says as opposed to what the liberals want it to say. And so rather than deal with that fact, they want to put 4 more justices on the Supreme Court. And this is something that Congress can do. It seems like they shouldn't be able to, but indeed, Congress just threw a vote of what last term was the Democratic House, the Democratic Senate, the Democratic White House, could have added 4 more Supreme Court justices. So what does my Keep the 9 idea do? It takes that kind of power, the power to pack the court away from presidents like Franklin Roosevelt or Joe Biden, and instead, and we all are aware that sometimes Congress brings forth these bills that are 1,000 pages long. Well, that's not my bill. My bill is one sentence. It says the number of justices on the Supreme Court shall be 9, period. End of constitutional amendment. And I think if we could get Republican control of the House, which we have, and of the Senate, which we may well have 2 years from now, we could advance this constitutional amendment. We could submit it to the states for their ratification. And I actually, my friends, think that that is not outlandish to imagine. And so we are building with the unbelievable help that the Federation of Republican Women have offered. You have elevated this issue. There are people talking to me about this issue that did not know about it 6 months ago or a year ago or 18 months ago when I originally proposed it. And so thank you for what you're doing. We're building momentum. We have, last time I checked, I think 100 Republican sponsors in the House. Last term, I think we had something like 170. So we continue to build back toward that number. And I'm actually in conversations with some of my Democratic colleagues who know in their hearts that the size of the Supreme Court should not ping pong up and down after every election, just on the basis of who has won the Senate and the White House. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the overview, and I'm happy to submit myself to your questions.
So, first of all, thank you so much for fighting this fight. It is so very important for our country, and you're absolutely right that the Federation is right there on the front lines with you. I know the Keep 9 Coalition is as well. Our National Federation has passed a resolution supporting your bill, and South Dakota has followed suit. We have passed a resolution as well, and I know states all across the country are doing the same. So truly, thank you so much for leading the fight. And the first question I have for you, Dusty, so changing topics just a little bit. My academic training is in economics. My mentor was one of President Reagan's chief advisors, and I shudder to think what those great leaders would say about the jaw-dropping $32 trillion debt accumulated under Joe Biden. And just today, interest rates reached a 16-year high. As Main Street Caucus Chair, you stated, we're duty-bound to address the crisis. We've put forward a plan that grows the economy, decreases unnecessary spending, and increases opportunity for Americans. Will you share some of the fiscally conservative ideas your group proposed, and has Speaker McCarthy been receptive to them?
Limit, Save, Grow, and this is the most powerful deficit reducing plan that has ever passed either body of Congress. So first off, limit. We want to take next year's spending, 2024 spending, and just take it back to FY22 levels. The Democrats are saying that that is evil, that is draconian, that will destroy this country. The sky is falling. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the amount of money we were spending just 4 months ago. It didn't seem like the sky was falling then. So that would be first. We want to get 24 spending back to 22 levels. Then number 2, we want to cap the growth of discretionary spending at 1% over the course of the next decade. As our economy grows by 2.5% and our discretionary spending grows by 1%, we are going to save $3.7 trillion just with those two things. So that's limit. Number 2, save. We want to claw back the $60 billion of unobligated COVID funds. We want to we want to prohibit the president from putting $500 billion out in unconstitutional student loan forgiveness. So let's save those taxpayer dollars. And then we want to grow this economy. We want to do that by unlocking American energy, by asking the president, by telling him that we want, as a part of this deal, for H.R. 1, our groundbreaking bill that we passed out of the House a few weeks ago, to get signed into law. We want to put back into place work requirements for able-bodied young people without dependents at home who are on welfare. If you can work, you should work. That's my idea. That was one of the major concessions that I was able to get Speaker McCarthy to put into the plan. And then finally, just make sure that we are cutting back on this terrible overregulation by passing the REINS Act, which would require congressional approval of overreaching administration rules. So those are the 8 pieces of it, as well as rolling back 87,000 IRS agents and rolling back the Green New Deal tax credits. And together, collectively, they would save almost $5 trillion in the 10-year window. It is a great plan.
Wow. Well, years ago, I stopped reading the New York Times, but I did notice when our nation's erstwhile paper of record called you, and I quote, one of the most effective conservatives in Washington. You've been instrumental in helping Speaker McCarthy forge a constructive consensus. Do you foresee a realistic path to progress on crucial issues such as inflation, energy prices, and border security?
Yeah, I actually think progress is possible. And it was, I guess it was nice for the New York Times to call me one of the most influential and effective conservative voices. Of course, nobody in America knows me. I'm not on Fox News all the time. They do have me on periodically, but listen, that's not my strong suit. In the same way that a good basketball team isn't made up of all guards or all centers, you need to have different people with different skills. And so I'm not the great communicator. Instead, I'm the guy who reads the bills. I'm the guy who researches what we should do. And I'm the guy who sits in the room and helps to craft the bills so that we have a strong conservative vision on how to go forward. And we are making headway. I know it doesn't seem like it, but we have Democrats in Congress, like Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona, like Senator Joe Manchin, of course, like Congressman Henry Cuellar from Texas, who are beginning to say the quiet part out loud, which is, Mr. President, your border policy is an abject failure. And we can't have 2.8 million people illegally crossing this border every single year with no federal government response. And so when we are building a bipartisan majority, I expect that when we get back to Washington next week, we will bring up H.R. 2, which will be a strong border security bill. As I said, we passed out H.R. 1 with Democrat votes, not many, but some, out of the House a few weeks ago to deal with energy. And inflation is going to get a lot better, Catherine, as we stop the era of putting $10 trillion of fiscal and monetary policy from a runaway liberal government out on the streets. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to happen overnight. But I would just say to all of you, just like the good book tells us, do not fear. It took us 40 years to get into this problem. It may take us more than a couple of weeks to get out. Have faith. And do not fear, because the American people are with us.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And Lacey, I'll let you say farewell, but thank you so much, Dusty. I know you're awfully busy. Thank you for making time.
Absolutely. Anytime. You guys are the incredible engine that powers the grassroots Republican machine. We could not do it without you. And so if there is ever anything I can do to help you power that machine, let me know. I'm in your debt, and I'm grateful for your time tonight. Take care.
One more quick question. And I'm so sorry, this one just came in. I've been asked to ask you if there are any Democrats that you think we could get to support Keep 9 if our Federation members call them in big numbers and ask them to co-sponsor.
We were on the verge of getting a couple of Democrats to come on board, and then we had the Jackson Brown nomination, and that just really politicized again Supreme Court appointments. And so it still seems a little close, and it probably will be more likely to get done when we're in an era of divided government. By that I mean the Senate and the presidency.
because you can't get anybody on the Supreme Court anymore. Or it's a lot harder if you don't have the same party in charge of both, which in many ways is a tragedy. That's never been the case before. I would remind you that Antonin Scalia was confirmed to the bench with 97 votes, 97-0. It used to be that if you were a highly qualified jurist, you got on the court, but the Supreme Court has seized a lot of power. And I think people understand that it is a different era. And so, Catherine, I think phone calls right now would probably not help, but I will be in touch with you guys. And if we get to a point where I feel like things are ripening, I'll give you all a shout.
Perfect. And then Attorney General Summers just wanted to say hello. And I don't know if he has a question, but Attorney General Summers, you should be able to unmute our Keep Nine Coalition chair.
Yes, very, very quickly. I would like to introduce several people who are on the Keep Nine Coalition that I see right now. There may be more, but Barbara and Martha and Ann and Luga, we all appreciate you. I'm the president or the chairman of the Keep Nine Coalition, Congressman, and we are supporting you and supporting your efforts for this 13-word amendment. We realize, and I used to be the Attorney General of my great state of Tennessee. For 8 years, I was the Attorney General. I have argued before the United States Supreme Court. I understand how it works. This is the most important constitutional amendment that we'll have for a long time. The Supreme Court has been packed by both sides, both Republicans and Democrats, about 7 times. About 4 years ago, Andy Miller, a Democrat, the former Attorney General of Virginia, came to me and asked me, would I be interested in getting involved in the constitutional amendment process? He sent me some information. I told him I would. At that time, 15 former attorneys general, 8 Democrats and 7 Republicans all got behind that 13-word amendment, which you have now incorporated into your resolution. So it is a bipartisan effort. Right now, we only have Republicans supporting it, obviously, but court packing, ladies and gentlemen, is a sugar high. You'll get some opinions that you might like for a while, but then when the party changes, then the other party will pack the court. So the next thing you know, some child in Thanksgiving will ask her granddaddy, why do we have 29 members on the United States Supreme Court?
Yeah.
We don't want that to happen. We don't want to be like a banana republic. We want to have that third branch that is independent, follows the rule of law, and doesn't follow politics and polls. And I want to thank you for what you're doing. And we want to know what we can do to help you, Martha and Luga and Ann and Barbara. Please tell us what we can do. We want to help.
Amen, brother. That is outstanding. And obviously you've been a fighter in the cause for longer than I have. And so thank you for all of the groundwork you've laid.
Thank you so very much, Dusty, again for joining us. Thank you, Attorney General Summers and Rosenthal. And Lacey, I'll let you say farewell to Dusty, and then we'll move on to our breakout sessions.
All right. Thank you again, Dusty, for joining us tonight. I do just have one quick little short story that I want to tell. The last time I saw Dusty, I was driving down Texas Street here in town, and I was picking up my kids from their grandmother's house, and I looked down the street. I mean, you can't really mistake Dusty's gait for anyone else. I was like, is that Dusty Johnson? And I turned around and I went over, and he was knocking on doors for one of our local women who was in a really, really close race. And yeah, he was, like I said, he's willing to get dirty, and he came to town and knocked on doors for her, and she won. She pulled it off. So he really means it when he says he's willing to do that stuff for us and get involved and support our cause and the Republican women. So thank you for that, Dusty. And thank you again for joining us tonight.
Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.